It was the end of an absolute surf-fest, and it was an action-packed finale. After impressing in the semis and then early in the final, Nathan Webster was almost uncatchable until he was pinned for interference. Shane Bevan went on to claim the title, but in the wash-up of what has been dubbed the most successful Mark Richards Pro, the talking point was that penalty on Webster.
I mean, Nathan Webster, very unlucky to miss out, very unlucky. I mean, his surfing was so positive, he just blew everyone away, especially in the semi-finals. And rules are rules. He's been around a long time. He admits it, yeah, I fumbled and that's it.
It wasn't the only interference call in the finals. Todd Prestage was also reprimanded, but all in all it was a tremendous finish to Surfest. Its success speaks for itself, with almost all of the international field indicating they'll be back.
Got a contest that no one else has got, and I think they're going to keep coming back and telling their friends about it also.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Peter Lawler enjoyed a successful 1996, his javelin stable winning Olympic silver with Louise McPaul, while Tamworth's Andrew Hawthorne reached the World Junior Championships. But the year wasn't as fruitful for Andrew Curry, the national champion now opting to part company with his coach of 11 years.
It come down to my personal happiness, and I wasn't happy at the time, and I sort of lost the enjoyment for athletics and lost enjoyment for throwing javelins.
Curry denies the split has come after new star Adrian Hatcher enjoyed almost immediate success with the Olympic throwing coach and pressuring Curry for the national title.
Adrian and I are still best of friends.
But Lawler, Curry's coach of 11 years, is still coming to terms with the decision.
I was devastated. He asked me years ago to coach him to the end of his career, and I said I would, and I've often said to him that I would not desert him through thick and thin.
But Lawler says he feels for Curry's girlfriend, Louise McPaul, who is now caught between loyalties to coach and boyfriend.
Lou has indicated she's staying with me. I'm very, very grateful for that loyalty. I mean, we've been a very successful team.
Curry's move comes just 3 months before the start of the biggest championship of the year.
In terms of the timing, I think that was the biggest shock. That was only a few months to go to World Champs. He must be quite desperate, I would think.
Curry now looks for a new coach. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Jeff Fidden and Graham Hockey are among the 2,000 survivors of the previous state government's fishing policies. In just 6 years, the number of fishermen in New South Wales was halved, but there's now even more uncertainty under the Labor government.
There's more instability in the industry than ever I've seen in my lifetime in the industry. Young people don't know where they're going, they don't know what's happening tomorrow.
A review is underway across the state to try and provide a long-term plan for the fishing industry. It includes an overhaul of licences, which could see some fishermen lose their livelihoods without compensation, although the state government has created an independent body to hear appeals.
If things that we've been doing all our lives are taken away from us by bureaucracies or whoever, there should be some compensation.
Fishermen also have to consider how to organise the industry, with two main options: restrictive licences, which will limit the type of fishing but not the amount of fish that can be caught. There's also share managed fisheries that allows all types of fishing but has strict quotas on the number of fish. Each fishing region will elect a management administration committee to decide which path to take. The state government says it will finish the review by the end of the year. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Two men entered the BP service station on Sandgate Road at Shortland around 8:30 last night, pointed firearms at the startled attendant, then left with the contents of a cash register. Police were on the scene within minutes, interviewing the attendant, then searching the immediate area. The getaway car, a stolen Commodore, was found at the Shortland RSL. Scientific police checked it for fingerprints. The first man is described as being 180 centimetres tall, 25 years old, of Islander appearance, a solid build, and wearing a dark blue to black nylon jacket with a hood over his head. The second man is described as being 170 centimetres tall, 25 to 30 years old, with a dark complexion, small to medium build, wearing a beanie and gloves. Detectives say bandits are risking a lot for very little.
An offensive armed robbery in company carries 20 years imprisonment, so it's certainly not worth it for a couple of $100.
Meanwhile, police have issued an artist's impression of a man wanted over the brutal stabbing of a Mulbring shopkeeper in late February. The owner of the store was involved in a struggle with the bandit who stabbed the owner several times in the head and chest. Cessnock police are appealing for members of the public who know the man to come forward. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Hunter Mission staff discovered the burglary when they opened up this morning. Just about anything that wasn't bolted down was gone.
We've had a number of TVs, a number of VCRs, a computer system, a lot of training, things that are used for training with the young people.
The thieves broke into the Maryland house through a side window and loaded the $20,000 worth of goods onto a truck. Neighbours heard a vehicle just after 1 this morning, but thought it was just another overnight visitor to the centre. The Hunter Mission uses the home to teach people with disabilities the skills needed to live in the community. The house is also used for emergency accommodation, but it was unoccupied last night.
They've obviously been aware of that, so that's even more disappointing if they are aware of how we use it and have taken advantage of that.
Most of the goods were insured, the rest will have to be replaced through the generosity of the public. The service will be moved to another area for the next few days until the home can be returned to normal. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Around 20 years ago, the Toukley shops were thriving. Now most retailers are struggling to survive.
The area is suffering like all other areas that are being impacted by the large regional shopping centres, and if we want to create something that makes it a convenient and a nice place for people to shop, well, yeah, sure, we've got to do the basics.
Local businesses have asked Wyong Council to impose a levy on them. The funds raised to be spent on promotional and marketing activities. Their action follows the council's plans to spend $700,000 upgrading Toukley's CBD.
Well, we feel that the retail area needs a little bit of an injection, a little bit of a lift after the success of the entrance. Toukley really is the next cab off the rank.
The focus of the development will be a town square village green, featuring a playground and community art displays. Also planned extensive landscaping, new footpaths and street furniture. Mr Symington believes the improvements will be a major boost for what he says is a tired-looking town.
Oh, you betcha. We've after so many years of down period, to have something on the horizon that's going to make it good for Toukley is very exciting. Yeah.
During his relatively brief time at the helm of the Hunter Regional Tourism Organisation, David Simmons presided over the single biggest tourism push the area has seen. The So Much So Close campaign took the Hunter into lounge rooms as far away as Britain, America and New Zealand. He says he's disappointed to be leaving the tourism organisation.
But nonetheless, I don't believe you can look back. You've got to sometimes make a judgment to part company, and that's in the process of being done, and move on to your next challenge.
Mr Simmons resigned after falling out with the Tourism Organisation Board over a restructuring which would have cut the number of local government representatives and replaced them with tourism operators. The former Federal Tourism Minister remains confident his proposed reforms will win out in the end.
Within a matter of months, I think you'll see some significant structural changes that will in fact address the issue of the ownership of the organisation.
Mr Simmons will now take on the top job with the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce. He's promising to make the chamber more relevant to its members and business in general.
Gone are the days when people will simply sign up to an organisation simply because it's been there for 111 years.
Mr Simmons will take up his new post on the 12th of May. Phil Hind, NBN News.
From the outside, it may not look historic, but a glimpse into the past reveals the century-old cottage's true heritage. It belonged to one of the area's main cabinet makers. Its future is now in the hands of Maitland Council. Ironically, the demolition application is being considered during Heritage Month. Morpeth relies upon tourists who come to catch a glimpse of the past. Residents fear if the cottage is demolished, the tourists could one day disappear.
Everyone I've spoken to is very much against it because they feel that this would be not only a great tragedy here for this particular residence, but it could leave a very nasty precedent for other homes where people would like to demolish them and put up modern duplexes.
Meanwhile, an artist's dream of another historic village is unfolding in Morpeth. Lifelong Minmai resident Bill Freeman is exhibiting a collection of paintings depicting Minmai's past glory. Titled The Rise and Fall of Minmai, the unique collection was begun by Bill as a young child.
I was about 8 or 9 years old. And that's why I've got a lot of this material and nobody else has got it. I kept them in a box and the cats have been running over them and the dogs have been running over them. I've had to straighten them out and draw them again to get the material.
Sadly, it's the only time the collection will be shown under the one roof. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Mariners will be hoping they don't need Tim Madison's goal-kicking skills tomorrow night as the club tries to extract sweet revenge against the Reds. The last time the clubs met, Perth walloped the Hunter. Madison is keen to even up that score and renew an old friendship with opposing forward Rod Howe.
We played most of our junior sort of career together at Central Charlestown. Played a fair bit of sort of junior rep sort of years together, and all in all, just pretty good pals.
Yeah, I've played against Tim a few times there. I always enjoy the experience, so it'll be great.
Howie, as he's known to teammates, has gone one up in the friendly rivalry between the two, having just been selected in the Australian Super League team.
Howie's taken the step of getting picked in the Australian Super League side for next Friday night, and I mean it's probably something that in the future I'll be aiming at. So I mean, it'll be good to go up against him.
The battle between the opposing halves should also be intense. The Mariners' Noel Goldthorpe taking on former local Matthew Rodwell. The Mariners will be trying to make it 3 in a row at home, but the Reds will be tough, Perth running 5th after winning 4 of its 7 games. The task for the locals will be made even harder if Tony Iro is forced out with his troublesome hamstring. He's rated as only an each-way bet of taking the field. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
I'm very nervous actually. I've been to an Olympics and I played a lot of games in the NBL, but I think right now I'm just about as nervous as anyone can be about tomorrow night.
Striding into today's press conference at the Williamtown base, Mrs Bishop says she was here to set things straight.
I've come here this morning to make it perfectly clear for you all. Williamtown is not to be disposed of. Williamtown is an important facility for us.
The future of the base was thrown into uncertainty after the federal government announced a major shake-up of Australia's Defence Force last week. Williamtown is included in the review's so-called indicative list because of encroaching urban development. But today, Mrs Bishop said that issue was being resolved with Port Stephens Council.
We wouldn't want to see a council be foolish and allow urbanisation to continue. And as I said, they've shown very sensible signs and they've already bought up one particular area.
She said, if anything, the review, along with the $1 billion contract to build the new Hawk 100 jet trainer in the Hunter, strengthens Williamtown's case to become a prime air base.
The report says they're attracted to it becoming a large-scale base, larger than it is now.
Local member Bob Baldwin is also confident about expansion.
The opportunities in the Hunter for both Williamtown and Singleton to become super bases of up to 5,000 personnel are real opportunities.
An official announcement about whether the base will become the country's Defence Force Command Centre will be reached in the next few months. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
After just being cleared of migraines, Paul Harrigan was keeping a cool head with country today. Nursed back into fitness by the Knights, Chief has played only a few moments on the field this season.
I just got to throw myself in the deep end. You know, I have no match fitness and a little bit yesterday, and I'll just do my best.
Back in Newcastle, Knights coach Malcolm really wasn't as diplomatic.
I think they've overlooked the fact that he's been out of the game for 7 weeks, and the pressure they put him under by selecting him as captain to lead the side, I just don't think that it's a pressure that he needs.
Harrigan returned to football at Brookvale yesterday. He played less than half the match. Serious migraines have kept him away from the game for most of the season. The Knights have slowed his return on medical advice.
We've not played him now for 7 weeks, and all of a sudden they're expecting to play 2 games in 3 days, which I think's unfair on Paul.
Thoughts of another injustice, this time for Tony Butterfield. He missed City selection. Officials thought he was eligible for country.
Mate, I'm just disappointed. I would have liked to had a crack at it and play against some of the teammates. It would have been a good night out, particularly here at home. But it's not to be this year. Maybe next year.
At 31, Butterfield is perhaps playing the best football of his career. Players and coaching staff alike say they're embarrassed by his exclusion.
He's got the form there. He doesn't need to prove anything to the selectors for the City, and to pick Josh Stewart and Colin Ward in front of him, I think it's an insult.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The Ayrshire Close building was well alight when the 8 fire units arrived just after 3 this morning. The fire started in the furniture factory and quickly spread to a warehouse full of timber. The design of the building hampered efforts to extinguish the blaze, the crews finding it difficult to get to the source of the smoke.
This building's got what we call tilt slab construction with a sloping metal roof, and the roof's interrupted by skylights, and those skylights burned away, which allows the flame to actually penetrate the roof.
Firefighters rolled out paper from an adjoining printing plant, fearing it would add fuel to the fire. After 2 hours, the situation was under control, but daylight revealed how much damage had already been done.
The northwestern corner of the building, there's nothing to be saved in there, and at this stage an engineer is giving us a report on the actual condition of the structure itself.
The insurance bill is expected to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Police are treating the fire as suspicious. It's not yet known what caused the blaze. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Despite some recent strong performances, the Mariners still have one record they would rather do without.
There is a statistic there, and I told the boys that we're the only Super League side that haven't won away. So statistics are made to be broken.
It's an imposing task for the Mariners. They'll have to break that losing streak against Cronulla. The Sharks have a superb record on their home ground, but Adelaide proved on the weekend that winning is possible.
Yeah, that probably didn't do us any favours. They got probably going to get them a bit crankier, but Adelaide played particularly well, and I think Cronulla would be the first to admit they didn't play all that well.
Graham Murray has made one change to the team. Gavin Thompson returns from injury at the expense of Robbie Bannister. Tony Iroh's fitness to be checked after the Super League test on Friday. The Sharks will rely even more on players backing up.
They've got 5 backing up and the coach, so it's probably a good time, as much as they didn't play well last week. So a bit of disruption to them and none to us.
Hunter has scored 2 wins from its last 2 matches. Defence again will be the key to victory.
We've really got to do a lot of extra work in the marker area because you've really got to stop them from going forward.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Renato Rispoli was relaxed today, despite the knowledge he'd lost control of the year-long event he was appointed to run.
For me it's a great relief, and I don't think I've got that big an ego that it's going to be a slide on me.
Pat Callaghan has been appointed General Manager and will handle the day-to-day running of the corporation. An accountant has also been hired. Mr Rispoli will still have artistic control over the celebrations, but they'll now end in December rather than next March. Newcastle Council General Manager Robert Gibbons made the changes after concerns how the $2 million of ratepayers' money was being spent.
I understand there's enough there to pay the staff for the rest of the term, and probably some aside for celebrations.
The bicentenary is very much on budget for what it's promised to do for Newcastle City Council. There's been an investment of council of some $2 million for this year, as most people are aware, and the budgets that have been developed on that are well and truly online.
The corporation has already raised 3/4 of the $2 million it hoped to raise from the private sector. That money will be used to promote future events such as the annual Matara and Fiesta celebrations. Newcastle Council will not be giving any additional funds. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
For the next 4 days, the Newcastle Civic Theatre will be presenting an old favourite, Run for Your Wife, featuring Australian satirist Max Gillies. The play focuses on a London cabbie who has 2 wives. His world falls apart after an accident when he suffers amnesia.
But farce is a particular kind of comedy, and I don't get a chance to do enough of it, so I'm really having a ball.
The play also features comedian Gordon Kay from A Low a Low and Julie McGregor from Hey Dad. It's been playing to good reviews in Queensland and will move on to Western Australia next week.
Everybody's very polished comic performers, and we've become a team. We're travelling the country like a little family.
The show will be in Newcastle until Sunday, and David Williamson's comedy Money and Friends is also showing until Sunday. The Newcastle Repertory Club has assembled a strong cast for the production, including John McFadden and Janet Gillam. Jenny Crouch, NBN News.
Kevin Crump was only in his early 20s when his prison papers were marked never to be released. In just 6 years, he could be walking the streets.
We as a family would be fearful about living here in New South Wales.
Crump and Alan Baker murdered Ian Lamb at Narrabri in the state's northwest in 1973. A week later, they kidnapped Virginia Morse from her Collarenabri home in the state's west and raped, tortured, then shot dead the young mother of 3. The Supreme Court has reduced Crump's life sentence to a minimum of 30 years. He's already served 24. Judge McInerney said Crump has rehabilitated himself and is a different man.
He hasn't been rehabilitated. You don't rehabilitate those sort of people.
Brian Morse was one of the first people to take advantage of new legislation allowing him to give a victim impact statement in court. He maintains the murderer of his wife should never go free. Crump will be 53 years old by the time he's due for parole.
It was a shock announcement for workers at the Torres coal mine yesterday afternoon. 140 workers would be laid off before June.
To our surprise, there was actually an announcement on the media prior to the men on the job finding out, so it certainly wasn't a very conducive mood of the people out on the job this morning, I could say that for sure.
Oceanic Coal decided against sinking a new $20 million shaft to recover coal from seams under Lake Macquarie. The company says weak coal prices on the world market made the huge investment unviable. The United Mine Workers Federation refused to accept the decision and planned to negotiate with the owners on Monday.
If there's got to be, and I stress if at the end of the day, there's got to be forced retrenchments, that will be done by seniority without question. What we will try and put to the company is obviously that they put on a voluntary redundancy scheme.
By halving the colliery's manpower, Peter Murray believes the mine has only 4 years left. He says the union will lobby Oceanic Coal to ensure the mine leases don't lapse.
To make sure that they don't stagnate that, so if things do improve in the future, we can certainly go out there and get that coal, which could mean increasing employment.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
After years of speculation, the Point Clare Coordination Centre will close in August. In its place, AMCAD, a computer-aided dispatch system, which will operate out of Sydney. It's one of 4 units going in across the state at a cost of $24 million. The ambulance service says it's a positive move and it denies claims ambulances will be delayed as they will no longer be controlled by a local base.
The officers will still have the capability of voice contact with those people in the houses. However, the AMCAD will have all that geographical data entered into it, so that when a call comes in, we'll have what we refer to as call line identification. We'll know where the call's coming from.
The service maintains there will be no job losses, with staff offered positions in Sydney or back on the road. It claims there will actually be an extra 9 people working in the region. The AMCAD system has been operating in Victoria for nearly 12 months. It has been particularly unpopular and there are claims it has cost lives. However, the New South Wales Ambulance Service says many of the problems experienced in Victoria won't be repeated here.
Well, there's been a lot of research into AMCAD. There's been visits to the Victorian Ambulance Service. There's been visits overseas to have a look at the systems that are currently in place and working. And the system that the Ambulance Service is developing and implementing is already tried and true in several large ambulance services within the world.
Jenny Crouch, NBN News.